Before we begin, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another story about the rarest coins and the forgotten treasures hiding in plain sight. Now, let's step back in time, back to a year that holds a small piece of metal worth a fortune today. Imagine this. It's 1963. The world is changing fast. The Beatles are about to take over the airwaves. The world is holding its breath in the Cold War, and down in the southern tip of Africa, a small copper coin is being minted. Just half a cent in value. So ordinary, you could buy a sweet or two with it. Nothing more. Yet, this tiny coin, no larger than your thumbnail, would one day become the talk of collectors around the world. A coin so rare, so rich in history, that its story sounds almost too good to be true. The 1963 South African half-center. A simple name, a small denomination, but a giant in the world of numismatics. Minted during a time when South Africa was still part of the British Commonwealth, this coin carries more than just its metal value. It carries the story of a nation, a people, and a time of transition. The obverse side shows the portrait of Jan van Riebeeck, the Dutch colonial administrator who arrived in the Cape in 1652, establishing the first European settlement in South Africa. His image was once a symbol of national pride, appearing on South African currency for decades. But for many, it also symbolizes a complex and controversial history, one that shaped the nation for generations. That portrait alone makes this coin not just currency, but a piece of history frozen in copper. Flip it over, and you'll find the familiar words, Suid-Afrika and South Africa, surrounding a springbok antelope leaping across the veld. It's a powerful image, one that speaks of freedom, resilience, and the enduring beauty of the South African landscape. It's the same antelope that still appears on the Krugerrand today, a reminder that some symbols are timeless. But what makes this half-cent so incredibly valuable today isn't just its design. It's the story behind how few of them survived. In 1963, the South African Mint produced these coins in limited numbers as the country transitioned into a decimal system. Millions were planned, but many were melted down or simply discarded after use. The copper alloy corroded easily, and most coins lost their detail within a few years. Finding one in pristine condition is like discovering a relic of a forgotten era. Now, here's where things get truly fascinating. Over the years, collectors began noticing subtle differences between the coins. Variations in the metal tone, the lettering, even the fine details of Van Riebeeck's collar. Some were struck slightly off-center. Others bore minting marks that didn't appear in official records. These minting anomalies, often dismissed as mistakes, turned out to be gold mines for collectors. The legend of the rare 1963 half-cent grew quietly. For decades, it was a coin that few outside South Africa had ever heard of. But then, one day, a near-perfect specimen appeared at a private auction, graded at the highest level of preservation, untouched by circulation, with its copper gleaming like it had just left the mint. The bidding started modestly. Within minutes, it skyrocketed. What had been a small piece of change suddenly became a symbol of prestige among serious collectors. But why would anyone pay millions for half a cent? Because in the world of rare coins, it's not about the face value. It's about rarity, condition, and the story it tells. Each coin is like a time capsule, a silent witness to history. This particular coin captures the final chapter of an old South Africa before the sweeping changes of the late 20th century. For some collectors, owning that history is priceless. There's also the matter of metal composition. Most half-cents were made from a simple copper alloy, but a handful were rumored to have been struck in bronze prototypes or on leftover foreign planchets, metal blanks intended for other nations' coins. These rare mint errors, if authenticated, can multiply the coin's value exponentially. Some experts believe that fewer than 10 such coins exist in the world today, and that's where the mystery deepens. Over the past decade, stories have surfaced of collectors discovering forgotten 1963 half-cents in old jars, drawers, or inherited collections. In many cases, they were dismissed as worthless trinkets, until someone checked their condition and discovered they were holding something extraordinary. It's not just a dream. It's happening. Right now, .so how can you tell if your old half cent might be one of the valuable ones? Start by checking the condition. If it's worn or tarnished, its value might only be a few dollars. But if the detail is sharp, the lettering crisp, the springbok clear, and the surface still bright copper, you could be looking at hundreds, even thousands. And if it bears unusual markings, a proof finish, or an off-center strike, you might want to get it graded. Because one of these tiny copper coins recently stunned the world at a high-profile collector's auction, a 1963 South African half-center in pristine proof condition sold for a staggering $7 million. Yes, $7 million. Half a cent, worth more than a mansion. It broke records and turned heads across the numismatic world. And here's the truth that gives every collector goosebumps. There could still be another one out there, hidden in an old coin album, tucked inside a forgotten drawer, or resting quietly in a box passed down from a father or grandfather. That's what makes coin collecting magical. It's not just about money, it's about connection. Every coin has a story, and every collector becomes a part of that story. This particular coin bridges generations. Men who remember 1963 remember a different world, one of discipline, craftsmanship, and pride in the details. That's why this coin speaks to them. It's not just a collector's item. It's a piece of their own past, shining brighter than ever before. So the next time you come across an old South African coin, take a closer look. Wipe the dust away. You never know what history you might be holding between your fingers. Maybe, just maybe, it's a forgotten treasure that could change your life forever. Before you go, make sure you're subscribed. There are stories like this waiting to be told. Stories of tiny coins, forgotten artifacts, and the extraordinary value of the past. Because sometimes, the smallest pieces of history are worth more than gold. Before we begin, take a second to hit that subscribe button. If you love rare coins, hidden treasures, and stories that take you back through time, this is your channel. Every coin has a secret, and today, we're unlocking one of the most extraordinary tales in South African coin history. A coin so small, so overlooked, that most people would pass it by without a second glance. But what if I told you that this tiny piece of bronze, a humble 1977 half cent, could be worth more than most houses, cars, and retirement accounts combined? Picture this. It's 1977. South Africa is a nation standing on the edge of transformation. The old penny and half penny have already vanished. Decimalization had come earlier in 1961, reshaping the way the country measured and minted its money. Coins were changing, designs were changing, and the economy itself was shifting. Among those new designs came the smallest coin in the nation's circulation, the half cent barely noticed, often lost in pockets and under couches. This little bronze coin seemed destined to be forgotten. But as any true collector knows, time has a way of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. Now, think back to that period. The half-cent coin of 1977 wasn't much to look at, just 19 millimeters across, made of bronze, featuring the familiar coat of arms on one side and the words 1/2 cent, with a beautiful little design of a pair of Cape Sparrows on the other. It wasn't a coin minted to impress. It was minted to serve a purpose, to fill a gap in the nation's decimal coinage system. But as the years went on, that purpose disappeared. Inflation made it practically worthless. It stopped circulating. By 1983, the coin was officially withdrawn, and by the late 80s, almost nobody remembered it. But somewhere along the line, something remarkable happened. Out of millions of coins, only a handful from 1977 were struck under unusual conditions. Some say it was a minting experiment. Others whisper that it was a private strike made to test new dyes or metal compositions. A few even believe it was a proof error, a coin struck with incredible precision on a wrong planchet, perhaps even with traces of silver in its mix. Whatever the truth may be, that handful of 1,977 half-cent coins became the stuff of legend among South African numismatists. For years, collectors argued about whether these coins even existed. Some said they had seen one in a private collection in Johannesburg. Others claimed a retired mint worker had kept a few samples, hidden away in a drawer for decades. But without proof, it was all speculation. That is, until one surfaced. Around 2015, a coin dealer in Cape Town was approached by an elderly man carrying a small velvet pouch. Inside, wrapped in an old newspaper clipping, was a single 1977 half-cent coin that gleamed brighter than any he had ever seen. The dealer recognized something immediately. The coin's strike was sharp, its detail immaculate, and its composition unusual. It wasn't ordinary bronze. Under magnification, it showed traces of an alloy blend not used in circulation issues. This was no regular half-cent. The coin was sent for professional grading and authentication. When the results came back, the world of South African coin collecting was shaken. The coin was indeed genuine. It was a rare variant, minted under conditions never fully documented, and possibly one of fewer than 10 known to exist. It was an accidental masterpiece, a fluke of history that turned a worthless coin into a priceless artifact. Collectors went wild. Bidding wars erupted behind closed doors. Offers started at tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. The rarity, the story, the mystery, everything about it made it irresistible. Over time, as more collectors learned about the coin's existence, its legend grew. Even among global collectors, this coin began to attract attention. People who had never cared about South African currency suddenly wanted to know more. They wanted a piece of history, a story they could hold in their hands. Now, imagine this. A coin smaller than a button, lighter than a feather, created in a year most of the world barely remembers, now being whispered about in the same breath as million-dollar rarities. For those of you watching who have drawers full of old South African change, this is your wake-up call. Those little coins you thought were worthless? They might hold secrets worth more than gold. You see, collecting isn't just about metal or mint marks. It's about the stories, the people, the history that live inside these tiny time capsules. Every nick, every edge, every faded letter tells you where it's been. That 1977 half-cent, for example, isn't just a coin. It's a witness to an era of political turmoil, economic change, and quiet craftsmanship from the South African Mint. It's a coin born in a time of transition, forgotten in a world racing forward, only to reappear decades later as a symbol of persistence and wonder. Now, I want you to think about what drives collectors, especially those of us who've spent a lifetime chasing history in our hands. It's not just value, it's connection. The half-cent might be tiny, but it represents something big. The power of patience, the thrill of discovery, and the reminder that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest worth. As you look through your collection, or maybe through those jars of coins left by your parents or grandparents, remember that every piece might have a story waiting to be told. Maybe it's a coin from your childhood. Maybe it's one that came to you and changed decades ago. Maybe it's a coin that's traveled farther than any of us ever will. And sometimes, if luck and history smile upon you, that coin could be one of those few that changes everything. So, what is the true value of the 1977 South Africa half-center? For most examples, it's just a few cents. But for that one ultra-rare specimen, the proof-like mint error, the one that collectors whisper about in hushed tones at auctions and private meetings, the value has soared beyond imagination. Recently, one such piece was privately valued at an astounding $15 million. Yes, $15 million for a coin that once couldn't even buy a stick of gum. That's the magic of numismatics. That's the power of history preserved in metal. And that's why you should never underestimate the coins hiding in your drawers. Somewhere out there, one of you might be holding the next great discovery. So before you go, make sure you're subscribed. Because in this world of forgotten treasures, every coin has a story, and the next one might just be in your pocket, waiting to be found.